Hello and welcome back to my GTNH playthrough. It is November 26th and we are back here over by Infusion. Not for long though, just kind of want to point out a minor change I made to it that I don't think I showed off last time, but in case I didn't. Uh, and that is this Infusion setup. So specifically the way I have the pedestals shown, if I already did this in the last video, I apologize because I just thought of it as I was pressing record. This did seem to fix all my issues with the Infusion, with one exception, which has nothing to do with the setup. It does seem randomly that the Infusion provider won't provide Infusion, or Essentia provider, I should say. And that's kind of tied to whether this stuff shows Essentia as well. From what I can tell on the GitHub thing, it seems to be a issue with this version of the pack, because it'll also, for the alchemical construct, I'll have random points where it just can't like make a, like Nidor was when I noticed it, and then I started to Google and I was like, oh, you know what? Everything's starting to make sense. Like, let's see. Right now, yeah. Crafting 1, it's all frozen up. But if I go over here and look at this, yeah, see, when it goes to use it, something happens where all the essential, like, essentially disappears. And then eventually, the essential will pop up and this thing will start running. But for a while, it's just going to sit here with the glowstone and nothing coming in, even though everything shows online. As you saw before I clicked on the terminal, it worked. But, and with that, I was able to kind of brute force my way to getting the Eldritch orb here. If you look up in the top corner, I have 121 million life points, or life essence, so I can do any of the meteor rituals I want to do. Now, I didn't set any of those up. I didn't have a whole lot of time to play yesterday, and then I was cooking for a potluck after, so that's part of why I didn't make a video. But I did also go back and get a second primordial pearl to replace the one I used for that orb there. That took up more time than it probably should have. If I need any more, I think I'm just going to make the matter stuff. Let's see, hold on. Primordial pearl. So I got my one, and if we go into how to make it, we can make it through either this recipe, which I apparently don't have unlocked, and then this guy, through this inert. But we can get this through UU matter, which we can get through matter fabrication. At some point soon, I'll probably craft this just so I can start passively building this stuff up more than I already have. Like, I do have some of this that's been running in an LV machine for like half a year, and I think it's only amounted to a few buckets worth, but I'll do this again before I start hunting for this stuff. I end up wasting so much time in that dungeon. Or so the first dungeon I went to, I wasted a lot of time there, and then the boss spawned out of the arena and I couldn't kill it. The second dungeon, I did everything for it, got to the boss room, accidentally hit the door with the Vajra, broke the door, and then the dungeon was broken. And then luckily the third one I went to, the dungeon itself was spawned in wrong, I guess, because it basically half of it was missing, and I could just fly out of it, see where the boss room was, and since I had the room from the dungeon I broke before, a rune from the dungeon I broke before, I was able to basically just fly right to the boss, get it done, and get the primordial pearl, so that was nice. But on to non-magic. We're coming down here to my new power generation. So it's mostly what I kind of described that I was going to do next, but I did. Interesting. Why is this doing this? Change up after looking into how all this stuff works. I haven't been able to get this particular one started yet. I don't know if it doesn't accept the draconium turbines. That's something I have to do some investigation on, but it's not too big of a deal if this one doesn't fire. The main nice thing of this is it's the last. As I go through the chain of what's happening over here, this guy is the last step, and even though it's going to generate me power, the more important part is it recycles the distilled water that's getting used. So that'll help this distillation tower and be able to hopefully keep all this stuff running smooth, because I believe with that current one, yeah, I'm running at a loss right now for at 300 of this stuff. Dense supercritical, dense steam. So I'll either need to get this guy working and then see if it'll catch up and keep everything running consistently, or I'm gonna have to spam more of these because I could also do the mega distillation tower, but I believe no, that's the wrong one. Mega distillation tower. Yeah, this thing's huge, and I really don't want to craft it and plop it down somewhere just because it's massive. And I think if at most a second or a third one of these will need to keep up. But anyway, so what do I got going on here? So I did build out this guy, and it does have the higher tier of capacitors in there. So it has 54 billion EU as its storage capability. How to describe it best first. So got this guy going. So this is the capacitor. Obviously it's getting power from the turbines. So the basic idea, we got this distillation tower making distilled water. The distilled water feeds into this input hatch over here this is the extreme heat exchanger. Then we put plasma in here. I just have a little input plasma or ULV hatch. It doesn't need to be very big. I actually had a bigger hatch in here, but I actually exploded it when I touched these two cables together when they were uncolored, and it ran out of water for like a split second and explode. Luckily, when this thing explodes, it only explodes the input hatch, but that's still a thing. It's been a while since I've exploded something. So then this guy essentially makes dense supercritical steam. So if we were to look at here, that'd be this guy. Dense supercritical, I got like 20 million, so got a decent amount. The dense supercritical is put into this turbine, which is the XL turbo supercritical steam turbine. It runs through, makes a ton of power, and then outputs dense superheated steam, which then is put into this guy, makes some more power, and this one outputs dense steam, and then which will ultimately come over into here once I figure out what's up with it. It says it doesn't have a valid turbine, so I'm thinking it doesn't like the material, like the draconium. But it'll come into this guy will make a little bit of power and then output distillation or distilled water and then feed its cycle back in. This is supposed to be way more efficient than the plasma. I definitely tell you it is going to make me way more power. Currently I'm not even harvesting all the power technically because I didn't realize when I was constructing it. I ended up looking at the wiki a little bit before I started recording. I can put bigger hatches on here instead of these 4 amp buffered. I did an experiment to see if I could put multiple hatches, which is pretty sweet. But currently this I have a 64 amp ZPM hatch, one for each of the machines, but only 16 amps of ZPM coming out right now. But let's see, if we're looking at the tooltip, this guy's making 36 or 3,600,000 EU per tick, and this is with it running in tight mode. If I were to switch it over to loose mode, you can see it bumps up all the way to like UMV power or more. Like, it's crazy amounts of power for what I can do. And luckily, unlike when I set up the MOX reactors way back in the day, I do have the ability to like handle it, and these guys like void the overflow of power, so it's not like I can maximize what I use here. And then this on top of all 3 machines is just a little standard control circuit of, okay, once this guy hits max power in, it did not do what it was supposed to. Out, off, in, out. 903. Oh, I see what's going on here. I forgot to put this back. I was gonna say these guys should be shut off at the moment. 903. I originally had a 16 amp hatch on here, and I threw on the 64, so it is not doing the. Oh, you know what? This thing's going to be butt-faced because Huh, I'm curious if I just throw it right here. I don't think it'll work, but I might end up having to move this energy hatch right here, specifically because energy hatches and the redstone stuff does not play nice together. One, two, three. Okay, yeah, this isn't working. So I'm gonna just shift all three of these down. Just basically, what's going on is if you have an energy hatch and you're like try to put anything with the redstone on it, it just doesn't work. And this isn't like the strong signal doesn't output directly to this. Like there needs to be a wire between it. So I will fix that. But I do have a kill switch like I usually do for all these. So that'll shut everything off and we're good. But yeah, this is a ton of power. So the immediate future, I will upgrade the like hatches over here to be able to actually utilize more of that power. And then from there, I think the next thing I'll need to start working on, I think to give myself like a short-term goal, I want to get to the turbine housing, I believe it's called. Yes. I'll be able to craft this, so I need to upgrade my assembly lines as well as start setting up a bunch of more alloys. But I want these so that these guys are all automatically refilling their turbines as they go down. And then I might even fix up these guys or make the XL version. We'll see. I might, just with the sheer amount of power this guy dwarfs everything over here and is way more efficient with the helium. So I might even tear this down and just have this thing also power this older capacitor setup that we have. But we'll see. I am like surplusing helium, and then obviously with this guy being more efficient with the helium, like I have 225 million, and it doesn't really hurt anything if I'm kind of wasting some of it over here. I will say I don't want to go to a super flat personal dimension level, but if I ever do, I will probably spam a bunch of these with the Mark II or whatever mark I'm at for these reactors and do tin plasma instead, because that's even more efficient. But so this little setup as it is already has plenty of room for expansion, but as we go more into endgame power, we'll be able to utilize this a lot. From what I've read, the other power source will be Naquata fuel reactors. I don't know anything about those. I've only seen the name, and apparently they're like I guess you would say the meta for getting power later until we get to antimatter. But I'll probably utilize them alongside this setup because it is a crazy amount of power, and especially once we get the turbine housing on here and I don't need to babysit it anymore, or keep that close of an eye on it. Like we'll be golden. So yeah, I appreciate. That's where I'm at right now. I think I'm going to go eat dinner. So appreciate anybody watching. If you have any questions about my setup or anything, just ask below. And otherwise, I'm pretty sure I'll have a video tomorrow, even though it's Thanksgiving. We'll see. I might not. It'll actually have less to do with like Thanksgiving dinner, which I'm having later, and whether I decide to be like productive in the real world. So, but yeah, if I don't, I'll for sure have one Friday. And appreciate again for watching, and I will see you guys later. Goodbye.